Monaco, a racing circuit steeped in history, from Ayrton Senna's pole lap in 1988 to Christian Horner jumping naked into a swimming pool. Yeah, you can leave that site to Jerry, mate. Hey there guys, and welcome to FP1 and to the comedy review, the series where I take you through the F1 weekend's action. And I'm apparently racist to Russian people, if you go off the comments of my latest video. Nevertheless, since I'm still yet to be cancelled, we can push on. And this week, the F1 parade arrived to one of my favourite circuits of all time, Monaco. And for once, I'm not being sarcastic this time, even if it does generally provide a subpar race on Sunday. Given how close the field is this season, and the flurry of good races we've had at the start of the year, there was a buzz around the community at the prospect of a really tight fight at the top this time round. Before we jump into the thick of the action, I just want to remind you that if you're new to the channel and enjoying the content, you're more than welcome to scroll down and click on that big red subscribe button, as it really helps me out. Let me know what you thought of the race down in the comments below, as I try to respond to as many as I can. Anyway, with all that out of the way, it's time for the comedy review of the Monaco Grand Prix. So, before the cars got out on track, there was plenty of news floating around the paddock. Firstly, McLaren decided to celebrate their rich F1 history with a retro Golf racing livery for the Grand Prix weekend. Not only would this be the first time the Golf colours raced in Formula 1, but it would also mark the first occasion where F1 Twitter all agreed with one another. Aside from the fact that Nikita Mazepin is an all-round cunt, there was also controversy at the top of the order, as a new technical directive was issued banning the use of flexi wings, after #Blessed snitched on the Red Bull team after the Spanish Grand Prix. It was fair to say that Red Bull were less than happy with the decision, despite being all for technical directives when Mercedes used DAS 12 months ago, or when Ferrari decided to cheat. This didn't stop the Milton Keynes-based squad topping the times at the end of FP1, however, as Sergio Perez led the session for the first time this year. He would be ahead of Carlos Sainz and Max Verstappen, as Gasly showed form in the AlphaTauri going fourth. Over at Ferrari, Charles Leclerc has always been consistent in Monaco. Well, consistently shit. The Monegasque has crashed out of all races around the Principality, and this weekend didn't start particularly great either. Leclerc exited the pits, showing his supporters just how many laps he planned to complete over the session, which was a joke you guys seem to enjoy over on Twitter. My shameless self-promotion aside, it also wasn't a particularly good FP1 for young driver Fernando Alonso, who was the first to put his Alpine in the barriers at the final corner. Moving swiftly on to FP2, and Ferrari would continue their strong form from the previous session. Leclerc would actually manage to complete some laps and put his number 16 machine into top spot, with teammate Sainz making it a Ferrari 1-2, and all the while making everyone watching think they might be burning oil again. Otherwise, it would be a fairly quiet session, with some action as Yuki Tsunoda knocked the wall at the swimming pool and Nikita Mazepin crashed into the barriers at Massenet. Oh wait, it was Schumacher. Sorry, force a habit. Other than that, it was a fairly calm Thursday for all the drivers, even Formula 2. Well, unless your name ended in Petikov, which is a nice segue onto FP3, because here everyone decided to lose their f***ing minds. Nicholas Latifi decided to celebrate Williams' 750th Grand Prix by giving his mechanics some extra work before qualifying, while Mick Schumacher thought he'd take some tips off of his teammate and bin his hat on the wall coming out of Casino Square. That incident would rule the German out of qualifying, meaning Mazepin actually had a chance to fight for 19th place in the afternoon. With that, we might as well jump straight into Q1 then, and Fernando Alonso's painful Monaco Grand Prix would continue, the two-time winner failing to make it through the first session. Yuki Tsunoda would also fail to make the cut, which I imagine resulted in him breaking the record for the most expletives used in a minute. Q2 would also see some shock exits, at the track where overtaking is about as likely as my chances of getting with a girl once these clubs finally open again. Daniel Ricciardo would fail to make it through in the new Golf McLaren, while Esteban Ocon and Lance Stroll also struggled to match the pace of the top 10. One driver who was performing, however, was Italian Jesus, Antonio Giovinazzi, who gave Alfa Romeo their first Q3 appearance of the year. Speaking of Q3, despite Ferrari continuing their strong form in practice, little expected them to actually keep going into qualifying. However, after the first set of runs, it was Leclerc who led Verstappen at the top of the table. Mercedes, meanwhile, was struggling, as Gasly outpaced Hamilton on his first run. The Red Bulls decided to turn the wick up even further for their second attempt, and it was looking likely that Max Verstappen was going to pip Leclerc come the end of the session. But what everyone forgot was, when it comes to Monaco, Leclerc's good at one thing and one thing only: crashing.
Oh, and it's going to come to nothing for Max Verstappen. He might have been setting the pace, but Charles Leclerc, the man on pole, has gone into the barriers.
Wait a minute.
Well, after that end to the session, Leclerc found himself on pole, with Verstappen in second and Valtteri wingman Bottas rounding out the top three. And all this set up a fascinating race to wrap up the weekend's action, which was the line I wrote in this script before the race on Sunday. In reality, well, I'll be honest, I'd rather willingly jump headfirst into a meat grinder than watch this race again. After his crash on Saturday, Ferrari would triumphantly announce that Charles Leclerc would be able to start the race on pole, which staged well. In the end, it turns out that Ferrari had only checked one side of Leclerc's car, and that the other side was beyond fucked. This damage would only be found half an hour before the start, and Charles Leclerc's run of not finishing a Grand Prix continued for yet another year. As a result, Max Verstappen lined up on pole alongside Bottas, who uncharacteristically got a good start when the lights went out. Sadly though, this wasn't enough, and Verstappen kept the leads going into Saint-Avold. So with turn 1 done and only a couple of the cars taking the Regunathan line, are hopes of an interesting race laid with Valtteri Bottas, the man who in 2021 has shown the ability and aggression of a plastic bag. And so to everyone's surprise, Max would pull out an early lead, while Bottas' engineers asked him to pick up the pace, to which Bottas responded by driving even slower. There would be further frustration on the other side of the garage as well, as Lewis Hamilton was overcut by Sebastian Vettel in the Aston Martin, leading to #Blessed getting a little bit salty over the radio.
How am I still behind him, man? Come on. What has just happened, guys? I just lost 2 places. Oh, I don't understand, guys.
Lewis were under threat of losing position to Perez as well.
But Mercedes' Monaco woes wouldn't even end there, as much like Bottas at the team, his front right tyre outstayed its welcome, refusing to come off the car like some stuck-up child at a toy shop. Bottas would therefore retire, making the top 3 Verstappen from Sainz and McLaren's Lando Norris. And if you want any more highlights, well, I'm afraid there were none, with not a single on-track overtake after the first few laps. There was a bit of action late on as Lando's tyres began to go off and Sergio Perez started to close up on the Briton, though in typical 2021 style, he couldn't overtake the McLaren. And so, after 78 laps of utter sleep therapy, Max Verstappen would cruise to victory for his first Monaco GP win, meaning he and Red Bull now take over the top spot in both the Drivers' and Constructors' Championships. To be honest, I do love Monaco, though I'm going to struggle to defend this one. Okay, overtaking is difficult, and we've known that for a while, though the race this weekend really highlighted why we're having such a big regulation change going into next year, with hopefully the smaller cars being less affected by dirty air in the Monaco track than their predecessors. Hey, at least next time we finally go back to Baku, so we may actually see some action and overtakes, as the sport is in some dire need of some. Anyway, if you did enjoy the video, make sure you drop it a like down below, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Now my university commitments are coming to an end, I'll finally be able to start uploading videos more regularly, so stay tuned to that as the season starts to get into full swing. If for whatever reason you want to hear even more from me in the channel, then you can also join our growing Discord community, or drop me a follow on Twitter. It's at FB1Will, and the links for that you can find down in the description. Anyway, that's it from me. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week, and I will see you all in the next one.